I apologize for those who could not hear me because I was on mute. Today is Tuesday, August 11th. This is the Litchfield Elementary School Governing Board meeting, and this meeting has been called to order. Thank you for joining us for the Pledge of Allegiance so far. First on our agenda, item 2A is recognitions and celebrations, and we have Shelley Hornback joining us for those, I believe. Just give me your volume. I don't know. Is Shelley on with us? Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to item 4A, reports from our administrators, and we will come back to item 2A, recognitions and celebrations, if we're able to reconnect with Shelley. So reports from our administrators. Let's see. I believe Trina's hosting us tonight. Let's see, is she online? I think I did see her earlier.
I am here. Can you see?
Yes, there you are. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Gunning. I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to join you guys tonight to really just celebrate the start of the school year. And I just wanted to start off by really celebrating all of our teachers who have put in some countless hours with professional development, learning all of the new district platforms, Nearpod, Screencastify, Google Classroom. In addition to that, them just attending those trainings, they've also have been collaborating with each other, with other schools. I know here at White Tanks, it's been super exciting as they start to learn all the new skills and they celebrate like, look at what I can do now. And they share that with other people. So that's been really fun to see them grow in those skills. Another thing that as we started off this year, I was thinking about how are we really going to connect with our kids. Really, conscious discipline is big on connection and reconnecting, and how are we going to make that happen with our students? And so I provided my teachers what I call a little digital teaching spirit. So we have some different props that we've got. So they have their hats or their glasses that they might come to class in just to have a good time with our kids. And it was a way for us to kind of break the ice and start talking about what are some ways that we really are going to connect with our kids. And then they had some fun props to take back with them also. And I've participated in some of their morning meetings where they have their different props on and the kids enjoy it and they get a good laugh. So that's been fun for our teachers here as well. Mission Believe, we're also in year 10 of Mission Believe. And as I started preparing for Mission Believe here at White Tanks and making sure I had all my materials and everything ready to go, really the day that all of our staff came in, it was just super exciting just to have our school family back on campus. And really from day one, they've been living out those mission belief skills. And when it was time for our Brain Smart Start, I had a teacher jumping up, getting the wish well board so that we could write our wish wells and leading breathing. And it's just been really exciting to see them start all those skills that have been developing in them, really seeing them use them day in and day out. And I'm just really excited about the foundation that Mission Believe has given all of our teachers here for Litchfield. And I know that there's going to be those days that we're a little bit nervous or we're uncertain of what we're going to kind of get into, but definitely we are empowered and we're going to rise above those. And sometimes we're just going to take our deep breaths and be in the moment, but we know that overall, we're all here in it and we're in it together, and we know that we're here to support each other. So we're definitely excited to partner with our families, with our students to have a great year. Couple additions at White Tanks. We have a new playground that we are very excited about. And so if anybody needs a little brain break to try out our new slide, come on over. We also have a new Gaga Ball pit. So if you've never played Gaga Ball, we welcome you also to come out, and our kids will definitely teach you how to play Gaga Ball. But just a couple things that we're looking forward to having our kids back so that we can just participate with them on some fun activities here on campus.
Well, that sounds awesome and fun. So when we are safely ready to come back to school and your kids can enjoy that, I look forward to pictures and videos and everything to share with us, because it sounds like you are ready, ready for people to come back. And it sounds like the teachers are doing a fantastic job with the resources they currently have. It's not an ideal situation, but it sounds like they're making the most of it. So thank you very much for sharing. I will open it up now to each board member to ask questions, or either of Trina or anyone else on the staff about the administrator reports that was on the agenda. Kim, I'll start with you and just go down the line.
Great. I don't have any specific questions, but I have two comments that I'd like to make. The first is just welcome back. It is so heartwarming to see our teachers and staff back at the schools and the campuses awaken from their seemingly long slumber from the spring and over the summer as well. Ordinarily, I would say that it brings me joy to see all of the smiling faces in the pictures that have been produced in these reports, but I'm going to say that this year it brings me joy to see all of the smiling eyes and the beautiful masks in the reports this year so far. The other thing I would like to say is congratulations to the Rancho Santa Fe Broncos and Principal Zuniga on their new marquee. It is gorgeous. I love marquees. As somebody who runs past the Litchfield and Western Sky and Millennium High School marquees, I read them on an almost daily basis, and they can be a great way to communicate with parents, students, and the community. So congrats. I'm really glad to see that you have that in your toolbox now. Thanks.
Melissa?
I too don't really have any questions, just a few comments. Kim took my first one on Rancho and the marquee, but I'm so happy to see that the PTSA was able to partner with the school and be able to fundraise to put together something like that. I think that's a great addition to the campus. For the Litchfield Elementary School report, I loved the Be the Bean video. I thought it was great. I made my kids watch it because I thought it was so wonderful. Another thing that stood out to me was the kinder signs for Corte Sierra. I thought that was a really cute way to welcome our little kinders. This is a very strange way to be starting school and kindergarten, and so I thought it was awesome to make them feel really special and welcome when they can't be on campus right now. The White Tanks, as you mentioned, the playground and the Gaga Ball pit, that's going to be so fun, and I'm sure that our students all there are going to have so much fun being able to play on that equipment when they get back to school, which, you know, we are all going to be excited when that can happen. And then facilities, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for everything that you do. Dan, and the 170 degrees on the roof at 2 o'clock, wow, that's really hot. So, I mean, I don't think you guys get thanked enough for all the hard work you're doing to make sure that our facilities are well maintained and that they're staying clean, especially right now. That's a huge, huge priority, and you guys are making that happen. So thank you very much.
Well, Melissa also took part of mine with the facilities, though she said it much better than I would. Also to comment on what Kim said, yes, welcome back. I don't have any questions, but I did want to point out two things to my friend Jeannie McDowell. Your principal, Amanda Acosta, wrote a great little write-up about you and sent us a picture of her staff. So kudos to you and the team that's been at the forefront of everything there. I also wanted to mention something out of Litchfield Elementary. I saw the bean video, very cute. But what I also wanted to point out was that Mrs. Hopper was very honest in her statements of that this had been a difficult year for all of us, clearly. It's difficult for the students, it's difficult for the parents, it's difficult for the teachers. We get emails about kids not being able to type, to parents that are upset about us opening, parents that are upset about us not opening. But it was really heartwarming to hear her also say that she has seen more teamwork and love and support from her staff. And I think that all the campuses are clearly showing that across the board in the report. So congratulations, and yeah, welcome back.
All right, so we see the board reports, we're always impressed by the work, by the teamwork, by the example of, the Litchfield way that we see in these reports every single time. And I will tell you that these are some, I think, that highlight that more than any other time. I will tell you, I am assume positive intent, glasses half full, hearts and rainbows sort of person with the way that I like to view my world. Definitely rose-colored glasses. But I will tell you, during this situation, it's been difficult for me to maintain that sort of view. I'm not a negative person, but I definitely found myself getting more and more negative with all of the stuff. And these reports and seeing the people, and I've had the privilege to kind of eavesdrop on a lot of different classes from a lot of different schools, different ages, and to see our teachers and to see our staff go after this situation with the heart, with the intensity, and with the pure positive intent and joy, it helped me get my rose-colored glasses back a little bit. I really, really appreciate it, because to see the positive energy coming through a screen and children responding to it is really, really special. And I think that we're doing this, better than pretty much anybody else, and doing it, with our plans changing every 10 minutes. So I just want to give a personal thank you to everybody's hard work to make this be as smooth as it can. There's hiccups, it's not perfect, but we could never expect that. But the attitude and the zest that our people, not just our teachers, but our staff, everyone who's doing jobs that they've never done before, I just really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Tanya, I will echo the same thing. I think, the negativity that surrounds us right now, not just in our little community, but state and nationwide is sometimes hard to get away from. But reading through these reports, I think really shows there's so many positive things going on right here, even amidst all of the craziness and the chaos that we found ourselves in. And I just want to point out one thing, Trina, this is actually on your board report. And I read this and I thought, this is exactly, this sort of encapsulates everything that I have been feeling. And I think, I think you put it in really a good term. So I will quote you. It says, although we are a bit nervous at times, we are using our mission belief skills to rise above, be empowered, breathe, and be in the moment. And I think that's really it, right? I mean, I think we have very high expectations of ourselves, of our staff, of our students, and we want only the best for them. And I think sometimes we forget to just be in the moment, right? If we're training staff or we're working one-on-one with a child or in a class in this new digital format that we don't know how to do, we are nervous. We're all nervous. As parents, we're nervous. We don't know what we're doing. Students aren't really sure of it either. So I thought you said that really well, that, despite the situation we find ourselves in, we are going to continue to empower each other and be in the moment. So thank you for that positive attitude, not just for your staff, but for the district. I think, we need more of that, and we need to continue to wish each other well and pick each other up when we stumble, because, we haven't seen the last of this chaos, unfortunately. We're kind of right in the middle of it. So thank you guys for your reports. We really appreciate it. Trina, thank you for your presentation on the White Tank Learning Center. It's great to hear all the good stuff going on there.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 5A, informational reports. Report from Superintendent Gunning.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the governing board. Just like to kick off, we just had such an amazing time, even though different, welcoming all of our new teachers and staff, and our principals and directors did such a great job of making them feel so welcome. So proud of our teachers and staff during the 5 days prior to distance learning and digital learning starting, just all the training, all their hard work, and then just seeing them blossom and shine when they kicked off the learning for our kids, seeing their passion, their excitement, their joy, their smiles, hearing their inflection as I walk by their classroom. They probably don't know I'm stalking them, but listening just to their wonderful voices and seeing their smiles on their face as they see their children. So grateful for them, and hoping they're getting lots of rest every evening. As we also kind of jump into this year, today was a very special day. Our leaders came together, and Dan Ensign actually had sent us an article about geese and how geese travel in flock, and how the geese from behind will honk at their leaders up front, encouraging them and praising them on their leadership. And so today was a day that we celebrated our leaders. And our admin council celebrated one another, kind of doing exactly what you were talking about, picking each other up. And I was blessed to have each and every one of them thank me and support me during this time. So that was wonderful. We are jumping into our strategic planning time of reviewing our strategic plan, looking at my goals now. We have a beginning of a leadership training tomorrow with Studer, still consulting with them, and really digging in and taking those measures, and then looking at how will we measure them, what will be our benchmarks during COVID times, and what will be our benchmarks for after COVID. So digging in deeper for that. We had some celebration with several grants. We had an improvement grant for 2 of our schools where we'll be able to purchase 94 more computers and 30 iPads, and we'll update you even later in the evening on the additional computers that we're buying in general. We also received an ELL grant where we can add additional staff, and so we're working on staffing of that to provide those supports for our kids. And today our principals were already collaborating with one another on working on interventions and how we'll provide those interventions remotely to our children during this time. So some very exciting times and a lot to celebrate as we move forward. It's kind of hard to believe that we're 5 days in.
We kind of thought it would never get here, right? And then all of a sudden we're already a week into it. And it feels like we're just sort of getting our legs underneath us. So yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now we're going to move on to 5B, reports from our governing board members. Again, we'll just go down the line. Kim, I'll let you start first.
All right, I was absent for the July 7th meeting. My sister had a baby, and so I went to help her and cook and clean and snuggle with my niece Lucy for a few days. So I'm going to backtrack just a little bit in my board report tonight. We did 2 board retreats. One was a full day retreat on June 26th, and then we had an evening session to continue to talk about board goals on July 28th. These times were, in my opinion, very productive, and I would like to give a special thank you and express my personal gratitude to Board President Danielle Clymer for her additional time in preparing and organizing these days. Productive board days do not happen spontaneously, and Danielle put a lot of time and effort into determining asking our feedback and then determining what topics we were going to try to cover on those days. Of course, we're big talkers, so we never get to everything, but we were able to cover a lot of ground. Danielle, I want you to know that I appreciate your commitment to our governing board, to our growth and our improvement. Your leadership by example is inspiring and impactful. Thank you. The next thing, yes, thank you, Danielle. The next thing that I would like to cover in my board report is a new committee that was formed in the last couple months, basically. And we're calling it right now the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. I think that name is probably going to be changed to something else that might be a little more zoned in on what we're trying to accomplish, but that's what we're calling it right now. It's led and facilitated by a teacher from Anytown, USA, which is a great organization that is a no baloney, let's put the definitions out there, let's talk about the actual issues. There is a lot of work to be done with this committee, but we've started with listening, learning, and educating ourselves in the basics. We have a diverse group of members in that committee, and we're looking to develop and set some goals for the district. Then we're going to look and see how we're going to execute and implement those goals. I foresee, and I know Megan Duplain, who's also on this committee, who's leading from a district standpoint, sees this as being a continual, multi-year, perpetual process and work over the long term. But I'm super excited to be involved in this process toward improvement in our district. And one of my personal goals is to make sure that actual change happens, not just checking the box to say that we've done something in the realm of anti-racism and equity. The last thing I'd like to touch on is just to go into a little more detail from what we talked about when I said welcome back to school. So over the summer hours as a board, we spent many hours in meetings. We spent many hours discussing, researching, and contemplating back to school. What's that going to look like? What are our choices? What are our options? What is safe? What is not safe? And I'm going to just echo what Elaine said earlier, because I love that you said this, because great minds. As I was reading through the board reports for tonight, I'm super thankful for the candor of Principal Hopper, who says, and I'm going to read her quote because I really like it. So in her board report, she says, "To be completely honest, this has been one of the most difficult openings to the school year I have ever experienced. The unknown and the tides of change make it so difficult to plan properly. Parents, teachers, and staff members' anxiety and angst have been the highest I have seen in my 20 years of education." So let that sink in for just a minute. It's heavy. It's a heavy thought. And I know I have felt that. It has weighed on all of us, from the governing board members to Superintendent Gunning, to our district leaders, to the teachers, certified and classified staff, transporters, parents, community members, students. It's all weighed heavy on us. And when I read the emails, some of the emails that we've received, and we all read all of the emails, we all are interested in your feedback. But when I've read these emails, especially in the last few weeks, I can sense the fear and uncertainty in your voice speaking to me. And I just want you to know that I understand that fear and uncertainty, and I understand why these feelings are common during this time. But I also want to assure you that as a board and as the leaders of this district, we are following fact-based scientific guidance, and we strive to ensure that all decisions are in the best interest of student success. Now, Mrs. Hopper goes on to say, after she expresses the way that she's feeling about the start of the school year, to say, with that being said, I have also seen so much grace, understanding, caring, love, and teamwork that it simply fills my heart. Which I agree. I am very proud of the characteristics shown by our staff and families during the beginning of the school year. Accountability, structure, consistency, and the quality of education are greatly improved from what we saw in the spring, and so evident after only 5 days. Thank you for rolling with the punches and continuing to make the best out of our current and ever-evolving situation. I am confident in two things. Number one, that in the 2020-2021 school year, we will continue to evolve and adapt. We're going to have to. That's just the situation that we're in. The second thing that I'm confident in is that however that looks between now and the end of the school year, the result will be student success. Thanks to all of you. Now I'm going to hand it over to Melissa.
Gee, I'm excited to follow that one. Pretty much everything Kim said, I feel the same way. We have been very busy as a board trying to make decisions and do our research and do our due diligence to understand this ever-changing situation that we're in that none of us ever expected to be in. I've had several people say to me, like, I'm sure you don't want to be a board member anymore now. No, I actually do. And I think this is why you have board members, because you need people to make these decisions at this time. And I believe our board works very hard to stay abreast of the ever-changing situation. We're all keeping up on what's going on with new executive orders and new things coming out from the health department at all times. And so that's really been taking up our time. It's been a very busy month. We did have a meeting recently where we were able to work on board goals, and that was a nice little change it up of everything we've been talking about, where we got to work on some things, because regardless of COVID-19 happening or not, we still have things that we want to do as a board and we want to see happen in our district. that we want to make sure that we stay on top of our strategic plan and that our board is able to accomplish goals as well so that we can be effective for the community and ultimately to make sure that our students are successful, because that's why we're all here, to have our students be successful. I know we have gotten lots of emails lately, and that's kind of been a lot of our time in the past few weeks. We have gotten the emails, like Kim was saying, where people are afraid of the ever-changing situation. And I hope that we are able to make people feel better by knowing that we are doing the very best we can to make sure everybody is safe and that everybody is comfortable, and that at the end of the day, that's our top priority, because so long as everybody's safe and everybody is healthy, our teachers are going to be able to teach better and do better for our students. And as a parent, I'm glad that I have kids in this district in addition to being on this board, because I'm able to see from a parent perspective of how the distance learning is going, because I've seen some feedback in the community, good and bad. You know, we have one thing we're learning every day is that we're never going to make everybody happy. You've got the people saying, please open right now. You've got the people saying, don't open till next year. Don't open till there's a vaccine. And so as a board, we're trying to kind of balance all that with executive orders from our government. And so I've gotten to see how distance learning is working with kids. And I have a kid on an IEP, and then I've got a super high achieving child. And both of them are super successful so far these last 5 days. And they're long days. And I hear that from parents, and I know that it's tough, but the teachers are making it fun. They're making it engaging. They are keeping the kids focused, and they are learning. And at the end of the day, so long as the kids are learning and they're moving forward and they're not having meltdowns, I think we're doing good. It is only day 5, so I think we're going to keep moving in that direction. And that's pretty much all I have today. I don't speak as eloquently as Kim does.
Okay, that's my turn then. Kim, I was going to try to read that, but then I was afraid I was going to cry. So, and then I almost cried when you read it. So I would have been a basket case either way. On the curtails of everybody else. Yeah, we get your emails. We can't please everybody, but we do read them and we value them. And I seek that information. One of the reasons that I ran for the school board was because I wanted to share my voice. So we need that feedback from everybody. I know some of you aren't happy with decisions that we've made. Some of you are happy with decisions that we've made. Community members are talking back and forth about what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. But to Kim and Melissa's point, this is about flexibility and the unknown, and manning these charters, as Kim had said, is Danielle. And I would definitely agree, Kim, that was really well said about Danielle. That was really well said. I have a few other things written down here about my report. And to be real honest, there isn't much that's been done other than me waiting for the governor to make a decision, but he doesn't seem to come out with one. So for those of you who are frustrated in that regard, I share your frustration, and I would like for those answers to be taken out of our control, those questions answered for us. But we'll just have to keep moving forward the best we can.
All right, so again, a little bit of an echo to some extent. You know, these summer months, I don't know that, you know, obviously the engagement isn't the same with the public because people are pseudo on vacation, I suppose. But it's always a really busy time, and with the extra board retreats. And I think, Danielle, this ship, if anyone's ever been to the meetings with us or ever watched any of these meetings, we can get in the weeds real quick and stay there for a real long time. So definitely kudos to Danielle to taking that time and helping keep us on task and planning ahead. And it's something not a lot of people can do with this group. So I appreciate it. And it was productive. You know, all of our time is valuable, and it's, I appreciate that a lot and doing that. You know, and again, sort of echoing the same sentiments, there are a lot of pieces to put with all these decisions, some of them in our control, some of them out of our control, you know, and all the pieces that go with every decision in a normal year that so many people don't see, all the layers that go with those decisions. This is even more so. There's still all the same layers that we've always had, from budget to legal to, you know, all the you know, the space available for things, the capping of sizes. You know, there's so many pieces to it. And then you add the unknown and you add weighing consequences versus actions. You know, there are a lot of consequences that we're paying for not having our kids in school right now. We're paying those consequences. And trying to decide that risk benefit ratio isn't simple, and there's no right answer, frankly. And, you know, I think about it every day, every single day, all throughout the day, throughout my regular job, throughout my regular momming, you know, and then this part of my life. And it's a very, very difficult task. So just know, and this goes for these kinds of decisions along with all the others that we make, is that every one of us have a slightly different perspective on everything that we make decisions on. But the bottom line is every single one of us has what's best for kids at heart. Every single one of us. There's no ulterior motive anywhere. And I can say that with a lot of confidence. And so that's really, I don't know where I went with my spiel, but yeah, that was my board report.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Kim, and everyone else for the kudos. I really appreciate it. This is certainly a labor of love, and I've learned a lot over the last, year and a half in terms of trying to make the best use of our time as a board. And we've, with our strategic plan and now really planning specific board goals and moving to doing self-evaluations and really kind of coming into our own. I'm really proud of all of us for putting in the work because, this is a job into itself, trying to better ourselves and constantly evaluate. We have a great team with Jody and all of her staff that we rely on to do so many things. And I think we finally realized that they would even be better if we were just that much better. So we're really, I think, making a lot of progress. So I appreciate the kudos, but thank you to you guys for coming along this journey. And when I say, oh, I want to do a board retreat in the middle of a pandemic on your summer vacation, come on out for 8 hours and let's just, hop on YouTube and, see what happens. Thank you guys for coming along on that journey. I do really appreciate it. I want to say thank you to Megan Duplain and Kim as our board liaison for and I didn't hear the entire name, the Equity Inclusion Committee, whatever that name is going to be. I've heard some really great things kind of off to the side, and I'm really encouraged by the progress that you guys have made so far. So thank you to Megan for leading that charge and getting the right people on there and really making this, I know it's a passion of yours personally, and now being able to intersect that with what you can actually do to affect change in your professional life has to be really rewarding. So thank you for working really hard. And Kim, we absolutely expect updates on what's happening. And I know this is really important to you to make sure that these words move and progress in a way that actually are tangible in ways that we can see change in the future. And so we look forward to supporting those efforts any way that we can as a board. In terms of our board activities, as everyone have said, obviously, meetings and phone calls with Jody. I know that she loves seeing my name, particularly coming up on her cell phone from time to time, but she still is taking my calls, so that's a good thing. Lots of webinars and professional development on our part, trying to learn anything we can about the Department of Health Services and the new metrics that are coming out, or what do these executive orders truly mean, and things like that. So it's also a learning opportunity for us. We are community members by and large, right? We stood up to do this job because we felt like that community involvement was really important. However, we didn't realize we were going to need to be, medical professionals and, professional educators and all of that along with it. But this year has really shown us that having those extra skills really come in handy. So we're doing our part to develop ourselves as well along the way and trying to figure out what the heck we're doing and how to make good decisions. As everyone mentioned, obviously the emails and the phone calls and all of that stuff we're receiving, thank you. We receive them, we read them. I try very hard to get back to everyone. I am behind because there's been a plethora lately of emails, but please know that they are read and that feedback is absolutely taken into consideration as we sit up here and debate the issues. One thing I will say about about emails and commenting to the board. And something I think is really important is there's a protocol and there's a chain of command in the district. And so if you have issues that pertain to the board and governance and things that are going on at that level, absolutely send them to us. If you have a problem with your child's teacher or something like that, start with your teacher or your principal. And the only reason I say that, not because I'm not interested in it, I actually really am. It's the time it takes for us to route that back to Jody, route that back to the right campus, to the right teacher. And it might appear as if we're taking a long time to make something happen. And I don't want that to be the case. It shouldn't be the case. You should have more of an immediate response. So if you're not satisfied with what you've been told or the communication process, certainly, absolutely raise the alarm and raise that up the ladder. But if there are things that can be handled differently, please know that sometimes it just takes us time to get through all of the protocol internally of where things are supposed to go. So thank you for your patience there. The last thing I want to say, and we haven't really talked about this sort of population or group within our staff yet, but I just want to say a big thank you to our brand new teachers. Not just to the district, but brand new in terms of this is your first year teaching. Thank you for sticking this out. You could have turned and run in a different direction. I mean, you knew this summer that things were going to be chaotic and different than you first expected your first professional teaching job would be. So I appreciate you. I appreciate the fact that this is not normal and this is not anything that was ever told that you would have to experience. And yet you're here and you're doing your best. And I'm sure you're relying on your team members and your principal and your instructional coaches and all of those staff members that are there to support you. But know that your dedication throughout this process without any experience is extraordinary. So thank you very much for sticking with us. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to, a much easier time ahead, but good for you for trying to settle in one of the craziest years on record. So anyway, thank you. And that concludes our board reports. We will move on to item 6A in the agenda, and that is the consent agenda. So if no one has any items they'd like to pull off, I will entertain a motion.
I motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Okay, I have a second. Any conversation, discussion?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question on item 11B, approval of revised fiscal year 21 work calendars. In this item, we are given the cost of the additional 2 days, and I'm still unclear as to what this cost is. When we approved to delay the start of school by 2 days, we were given a dollar amount for that cost. This dollar amount is different, and in my question previously, then I'm given another dollar amount for the M&O cost. So what I would like to know is, what is the total cost from every bucket in every department for us changing the calendar by 2 days?
Okay, I'm going to just make a suggestion just in this conversation. If that is the only question that we have, I'm going to suggest that we potentially pull that off and put that separately, because that discussion might be longer than just this consent agenda discussion. It's up to you, Kim, if you want to officially pull it off or you want to do it here. Does anyone else have any other questions? And if not, we can move to that. Jody, would you like to answer that question now, or do you want us to pull it up? You're good to go now? Okay, we will just discuss it now in this discussion, get that answered, and then we will continue on with the motion.
Okay, great.
Okay, and I know that we have Miss Wendy Qualls on the line too, so she'll probably chime in as and support me in this process. So when we gave the original dollar amount, we were looking at the impact of the budget for next year, for the 21-22 school year. So that was going to be the impact of the distance learning, which that has even changed even since we had that initial discussion, because now we've moved, now the start date moves until we meet the criteria of the benchmarks. Right now it's slotted for September 8th, but we'll discuss that further tonight. So that even dollar amount has changed. The other piece of the components that we're looking at is when we were talking about it originally as well, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to count minutes versus 180 days. And at that time, they were only counting the days. So we had changed the calendar to eliminate 2 of our in-service days so that we met the criteria for the teacher contract. So the additional doing away with those in-service days, that means our classified staff comes in and works on those days because they are typical days. So that's where you see the additional dollar amount or that amount put in. And then I know that she was trying to show different pieces of what those estimates will be. And those are estimated costs because we're not even sure exactly how many staff we'll have at that time, since our first in-service day or that change of date was just coming up here right at the, I think it was like the very beginning of September, and we've had a hiring freeze, so we haven't even hired. So she took into consideration every single position, if it was filled, what that cost would be of having them come in and work on those 2 days. In addition to that, these costs, we can also utilize CARES money because bringing them in to train them to prepare for this time it qualifies for the CARES grant funding from the federal as well as from our state CARES dollars. But I'll let Wendy chime in if I missed something, or you might have a little more detail.
Okay, Wendy, while you're going to join us, I have just a question kind of on that, and maybe Wendy, you can answer this directly. So as we see in the board docs, when you have the cost of the additional days and it's broken down by schools, which I'm assuming that means just the actual campuses, and then community ed, food service, special education, those numbers equate to the cost for the additional days for their staff. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes. So as Superintendent Gunning mentioned, I did take all of the current positions and then determine the total cost for 2 days, assuming they all were filled. And I split it out just by food service, community ed, so you could see for those funds, the impact. But in total, it'll be about $111,000.
Okay, so I'm not understanding the first thing that you said, Superintendent Gunning. So you said the dollar amount that we approved from when we approved option 4, we were told that option 4 had an impact of $79,347. So you're saying that was not a current year impact. That's an impact on the 2021-2022 school budget. How and why is that? And then why, I guess that wasn't really explained when we were given the options, if that's in fact what that was.
So that goes into our formula, and in calculating the formula and the impact to that formula for funding for the future year. One component of that formula is based on our student rates at this time, which is at a 0.95 when they are at distance learning. Does that make sense? So then that's calculated into our formula into the future and future impact on our budget.
Okay, so again, then is the total cost in fact the $111,177 plus the $79,000 in budget impact?
So the budget impact is actually going to depend now on how many days we are in the hybrid mode. Because when we did that meeting, what I was trying to present was that the ADM numbers for this year impact our next year budget. So those were the numbers we were talking about when we looked at this, was how many days are we going to be funded at 95% versus a full 100% for our students? And we were looking at that impact because at that time we didn't know how long this was going to last, and we were just looking at the impact for the decision we were making. So now when we're looking at the cost for the additional staff time, again, my estimate's high because it's assuming we have all the positions filled. So the impact is two separate things. It's the impact of paying two additional days for our classified, but it's also an impact on our next year budget, but it's dependent on how long we stay in distance learning mode. It's not really tied to just the calendar change.
Okay, so I guess at this point, obviously, this decision has been made and this is what the impacts are. What I would like to see going forward is actual dollar amounts given to the board for us to know the full impact of the decision. And I understand that this is an extenuating circumstance that I don't know historically that we've ever changed the start date of the school calendar year. But I would have liked to have known, not only is it the potentially $80,000, but there's another $100 and some thousand that's really going to go into this decision to change the school calendar by 2 days. That's a lot. It's a lot of money. It's almost $100,000 a day. And I understand we can't control the distance learning piece at this point because we're under, governor's orders for that. But the additional days of paying classified staff weren't discussed at all. So I would appreciate if we could try to get a better big picture as to the total dollar impact, and that would be provided to the board in advance of us making a decision like this. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement of that comment, but I think specifically we knew the 2 days. I mean, we knew that the classified staff was coming back 2 days in advance, correct? Or 2 additional days, I should say, not in advance. I mean, they are normally here, but also in advance. So these numbers would have already been calculated because we knew when we were asking them to come back that they would be here 2 days longer than they were typically in a normal school year. Correct?
So their start date didn't change. It was those 2 in-service days that they typically don't work. So classified staff usually doesn't come in on those days. So it's those 2 days that we
And
changed.
those days, what are those days?
The 2 in-service days that we changed that we canceled out. The one in what was it? There's one in January, I think. One in September and January.
Yeah. Right, but we knew we were canceling those when
Right.
we made this decision. So that's what I'm saying. We knew that if we were going to turn them into regular school days, that we would have to pay classified staff
right.
to do it. So we knew that this cost existed. It just wasn't presented to us at the time. Okay, I understand. Okay. Are there any other questions about these dollar figures specifically? Kim, do you feel like you have what you need now? Okay. All right. Well, then that will conclude this discussion. And there is a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. So all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Okay. We will move on now to, where are we? Item 13A, first reading of policy revisions IHA, Basic Instructional Program, and KB, Parental Involvement in Education. And we have Mrs. DeCoste presenting for us.
Good evening, President Clymer and members of the board. Can you hear me okay? Okay, so the first change to IHA is in reference to a requirement to celebrate Sandra Day O'Connor Day should observe and celebrate on September 25th each year. So they're asking us to put that on our calendar and to recognize that in our classrooms with activities for our students. And you'll see the highlighted information at the bottom of the IHA. That's the only change in that policy. Okay. Any questions about that?
I don't have any questions, but I will say I am impressed with the Sandra Day O'Connor Day, and I am very happy that we are doing that and she is getting that recognition. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of curriculum pieces or fun things that our teachers do to celebrate that day, because I mean, not only is she an awesome role model, but what a cool sort of local hero that we can celebrate as Arizonans. So I think that's pretty cool. Thank you for bringing that up. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the first read or any revisions? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mrs. DeCoste. We appreciate it.
The next one, President Clymer, is KB, parental involvement in
Oh.
education. So at the end of that one, also you will see that we need to provide access to the Arizona Department of Ed's parental handbook on our website. And so we will be linking that handbook on our website. And you can see where it's referenced the statutes that fall under that and everything. And so that's the only change with that KB.
Okay. That one seems easy compared to most of our policy changes. So,
I know, right? So
any questions or discussion about that? Any changes? Okay, great.
thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Okay, moving on to item 13B, our COVID-19 update. I believe we have several presenters, but I will start with Superintendent Gunning and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the governing board. We have lots to update you on in relation to our COVID update. One celebration that I wanted, or actually I have several celebrations, but we did receive approval for our AOI application, which was done, as you know, in record time. And not only was it done in record time, but they contacted us on a Monday and they wanted to do like an observation and they said, how's Thursday? So they literally turned it around that fast. Laura Combs was a shining star and just did an amazing job with that. Also wanted to celebrate our attendance. So our attendance for our students right now, we're running at 96, a little over 96% in attendance with our students. And that's something that's super amazing. And we're down to 94 students unverified. So what we do is we monitor the unverified students, which means that we have no contact or haven't received contact. And we started out at around 500 and we've got it down to 94. Now don't let that scare you. Usually we start off with around 300 to 500 every year as well. So not too totally off from a typical year, but record timing within 5 days to get it down to 94. And that's kudos to our principals who are making phone calls, doing home visits. John Scudder is also doing additional visits and reaching out to families. So we have everyone hunting down children as we speak each and every day. So that's something that we're very proud of and super excited about. We'll give you some additional updates, but also wanted to share with everyone that the new benchmarks did come out. We have additional webinars and training this week to kind of dive in a little bit deeper with the benchmarks, but the Arizona Department of Health came out with 3 benchmarks for us to monitor and to see how our county is doing in relation to opening up our schools. So the first one is looking at 2 weeks below 100 cases per 100,000 or a decline weekly. And average cases of 2 consecutive weeks. In that area right now, Maricopa County is in the green. Then we have the percent positive, 2 weeks of percent positive below 7%, currently still in the red in that arena. And our COVID-like illness, which is 2 weeks with hospital visits due to COVID-like illness below 10%. We're still in the red in this area. We float between 12 and 13% in Maricopa County. So that's something that we're definitely still monitoring, and we're appreciative to all of our staff, all of our community, and all of those out there helping us in reaching those goals. So what we'll be looking at now, in addition to that, is what does that look like when we look at reopening? When you get all in the yellow, you could open partially. Then of course, when you're in the green, you can kind of open up fully. So we'll be looking into all of those different pieces and that timeline and putting that piece together, of course, for recommendations for the board of when we think we are ready to reopen. So those are the new guidelines in that area. I'm going to turn it over to Gina DeCoste to give us update on technology and food services.
Do you have questions at the end, Joby, or do you want to kind of stop and discuss this?
If you think it's better to stop, I don't know what's better.
There's so much information.
I know there is a lot. So maybe let's stop now if there's questions right now.
Kim, go ahead if you have a question.
I do have a couple of questions. My first question is on the attendance, which you provided those average daily attendance rates for us. What would be a number that would be a red flag or an alarm? Like we have a couple of schools that are in the lower 90s. I understand our average is 96.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what I should be expecting there.
So we like to stay right in 90% or above. So we like to just kind of monitor that. Of course, we like to keep our attendance rate. We've had really high attendance in our district. So our average usually typically is 96%. So that's something that we monitor as a district as a whole. But we'd like to see 90% or above. If you get below 90, I mean, of course, in other areas and spaces, they do, their average attendance is lower than that. But for our district, we like to keep it at a higher rate. So attendance is something that we're monitoring really closely during this time. And so that could be, I mean, we monitor it typically as well, but definitely one that would be an example of a COVID benchmark to keep monitoring to see that participation and student engagement.
Okay, thank you. That provides some light for me that in a regular year, we'd have about 96%. The fact that we have that with this very unusual year, I think is awesome. So, okay, that's good. That's good news. My second question is, you mentioned using the metrics published from the Arizona Department of Health Services to come up with a game plan for students coming back, either in hybrid or in person. When are we discussing that as a board? I mean, as of right now, we have September 8th as the date that we have set for students to come back in person. What is this process going to look like? Are we having another meeting between now and September 8th, or what's your timeline for providing those recommendations to us?
So what I wanted to do is to get a little more training under my belt this week, because the guidelines just came out, and Department of Ed is having a webinar this week to provide additional guidance for us as districts on tips and hints of what to do. So I wanted to kind of get that stuff under my belt first, to then determine if we needed a study session or another special meeting to then, sit down to see, like, is this what our plan is going to be? So for example, things that pondering and trying to work through, is it when we're all in the green? Is it when we're are we going to go for it when we're in the yellow? What does that look like? So that's something that we'll work through, but wanted to get additional guidance because I know it's been new for everybody, and ADE has been working ever since it came out. And I think our webinar is, I believe, Thursday evening is our next webinar training for superintendents.
I think I agree. There's obviously more guidance, right? Because everything sort of comes out week to week. But I think it's really important, whether that is a special meeting or a study session, that we as a board actually decide and approve whether these metrics are what we want to use or not. I think they are guidelines from the governor and his office and the DHS, but we haven't had sort of that public conversation about, are we ready to commit to what those metrics are? And then of course, the staff then has to say, okay, like, to your point, are we going to open in the middle? Are we going to open in the green? And can we pull off hybrid? Can we not? I mean, all of those detailed things, I think, fall under the umbrella of, are we going to adopt these guidelines or these metrics? Right, what metrics are we using? And then I think the superintendent and staff can work from there. But without knowing that the board has set forth that approval, I think we're working under the guidelines of, thinking that those are going to be passed, but we haven't actually had that conversation yet. So I think it's important that I just don't want to set you off on a path of saying, okay, we're going to do this. There's a lot of details and a lot of work that you guys are going to have to do to make that happen if the board isn't prepared to set that as the metrics.
That's something to keep in the back of your mind when we're talking later about our the resolution, because it is kind of embedded in that. Okay. So you'll want to make sure, that we can talk about that during that time as well.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready were there other questions, or were we ready for Gina?
Anyone have any other questions on Jody's piece? Okay. Yes, Gina, we are ready for you. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So I did answer some questions about technology and give you guys an update. The latest update as of today is that we placed an order for another 1,000 Chromebooks. So we're awaiting to order 2,000 Chromebooks. And then we also placed an order of 50 Chromebooks with LTE data already on it. We'll be paying the monthly service fee for that for our students who do not have the internet connections at home. And we are going to be starting to work with the office staff and the principals next week and have them kind of whittling down, and the teachers, because our attendance rate, as you can see, is so high, students are accessing the distance learning. But the teachers truly know who the students are that do not have that. So we'll be whittling down the wait list, which kind of turned into a wish list for some people. As computers started coming out, parents thought everyone should be getting a computer. So now we're going to go back through and sift through those to make sure that our neediest kids are getting them. And we do have that high needs list ready. We were able to get 53 out to students with IEPs so that they're ready to go when we come back on the 17th, when they come back on the 17th for their on-site ESS services. So that's kind of where we're at. Tech is going to get a 200 to 300 Windows computers re-imaged and ready to distribute in the meantime. So we're just constantly rocking and rolling. And they have been so busy getting the teachers set up and getting them, you know, ready. And then the staff students, the staff children that are on campuses, having places for them and having computers for them. And then also the internet is another thing that Brad pushed an upgrade for that through. So we'll be upgrading to 1 gigabyte at every school, which will help a lot because we have, gosh, I think Laura gave us some great data today on Nearpod, and it was like 9,000 lessons that have been done on Nearpod. So we're running Google Meets and we're running Nearpod at the same time, and you're going both ways. And Brad has to teach me all of this stuff. I didn't normally just know this, but it's two-way communication. So we're using a lot of broadband and we have a lot of people on campus. So upgrading the internet was crucial. So that will be happening through Cox Communications as soon as, you know, the process goes through. But I'll open it up to questions for you guys because I'm sure you have some.
I have a couple questions. As I stated in the last meeting that we had, my concern was that we were going to have students that were not able to connect and do distance learning. So as of the latest data I have, there are 81 students that truly need a device in order to fully access the program. I asked for a breakdown by school of those 81 students. Do you know that information, Gina?
I do, and I sent that to Jody. I can share it with you if you want, or do you want me to just kind of rattle them all off?
Yeah, I would love for you to rattle them off. Yes, because I would like to know.
And so, and this is different from the wait list. These are parents so far that have been contacted and confirmed they either need internet, which we would have to wait for one of the 50 to come in with the Chromebook with the LTE data, or they do not have a device, or they are accessing on their parent's phone and it's not adequate. But this is not kids that are sharing a computer at home and that kind of need. So we'll start at Roby. We have 10, Belen, and I can share this with you. I have the email, Kim. Belen 2, Corte 6, Dreaming 18, Thomas Heck 16, Litchfield 2, Palm Valley 1, Scott Libby 5, Heritage and Western Sky 1, Rancho 4, Wigwam Creek 12, VES 1, VMS 2.
Okay, so I would be interested to know, I guess I have that information. How many devices school
Yes, you have
before
that
school
information.
started?
Yes. I think you got that yesterday.
I guess my point in this is I think it's pretty evident from looking at those schools who's not getting serviced. The biggest gaps here are our Title I schools.
Mhm.
That is very disappointing to me.
Mhm.
That was my concern in asking a month ago what we were going to do if we didn't have enough devices. I am disappointed that there were people who got devices, who received devices, who had it as a wish and not as a need. I, again, know this is an extenuating circumstance. We have not been through this circumstance before, but the lack of equity in our programs is an ongoing concern to me, and this is evidence of that. I do think it's a win to have 50 devices on the way with technology included on that. The connectivity portion of that. I think that's going to go a long way to service these families. I just wish we had more forethought to get that happening before they're now missing days of school.
You know, we did ask the principals and the office staff at the schools to go through those phone calls, to go through and make phone calls and ask the parents that originally responded in June and prioritize them at the top of the list, and to make sure when they were handing out laptops that they were doing it on a needs basis. Like, these are people that truly need technology in order to access distance learning. And they gave us, and I say us, but they gave us in the technology department the numbers of computers that they needed in order to meet those needs. And at that time, technology was able to distribute pretty close to that amount. I mean, maybe 5 or 6 short at some schools where they needed them. And a couple of our Title I schools were very high in the amount of computers that they gave out. But I know what you're saying. There are a couple of non-Title I schools that were also very high in the number of computers that were given out. And yeah, it's disappointing. I agree. But we're going to keep going forward and really sifting through and just being a lot more, I don't know, I don't want to say strict, but a lot more. We just have to really be careful about who we give out laptops to.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that, Kim? Do you mind?
Sure.
Brad, is it possible to take donations of a certain criteria of laptop that some of our families may have extras of, that they can donate to the district, that then you can format into our workable solutions for these families?
Yes, it is. The best thing, if we did get donations, is just we give it out to the students and make a district, because we then had to create an image for every one of those different types of laptops with different drivers, with different hardware. Right now, we got probably about 72 images out there that we got to maintain. So if we get 3 of these, 5 of these, 1 of these, that's another image for us to maintain. But it'd be best, yeah, if we could gift it to the students.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we have had some of those already to turn out. And then these are also the families that we contacted in regards to the on-site learning, so that they can access their learning actually on the campus. And that was one of the reasons of selecting Dreaming Summit as the location.
Yeah, that was
And
my
I know
next
it's not
question,
the
in that,
same.
you know, we can't speed up the Chromebooks coming to us. We can't, you know, I mean, those supply chain issues right now are not ours alone. Other districts are in that same boat, and everyone's sort of waiting for these to come. However, you know, for these 81 students that have zero access, what is the plan? Like, what other option do we have? I know in the spring we did some packets, we did some other things. So how do we reach those students now until we can either, if they're able to do on-site learning and they can use one of our machines, we're able to get them a donated laptop, or we're waiting for the Chromebooks to come in. All of those unfortunately take time. So what can we be doing right, or what are we doing right now to connect with those students?
So what we're doing right now is, and not all of those 81 kids have zero access, but the teachers, when the teacher finds out the students are in need or severely lacking technology, then they're making arrangements and accommodations, whether that be a packet, or some are doing some little things over the phone. And I know it's not the same and it doesn't compensate for the distance learning. And then also inviting them in on the 17th for the on-site learning. So the teachers are making special accommodations on an individual basis for all of the students that they're finding out do not have technology or adequate technology.
Okay.
And it's also noted in the registrars, and the teachers are noting it in our student support system so that we can easily pull a report. So when they call a parent and they say, gosh, you know, you haven't attended, why not? Or you were out yesterday. Oh, well, because they're sharing a computer and so he couldn't get on. So they're making that note in the system so that we have all of that documented, so we try not to miss anyone.
Yeah, and that's hard. I mean, I think, you know, I mean, our teachers are obviously navigating new technology and new ways to connect with students. And then, you know, unfortunately, having to do that on top of it probably isn't ideal, but I appreciate the extra work and the extra effort that they're putting in to try and connect with those kids. Hopefully it is a short-term problem that we have, and we can either get them connected or get them into one of our on-site programs so that we can allow them to use, one of our machines and keep them as up to date as possible. One thing I would love to see, if we can actually accept laptops, I realize they wouldn't be considered district laptops, but we could gift them. I don't know, there's some legality to that. I'm sure that Roger Spivey is probably pulling his hair out right now, listening to me, but if there is a way that we can have that program in place, could we add a link to maybe some instructions on our COVID-19 page on our website that says, if people want to donate, this is what the protocol would be, bring them to district office or whatever we would do with them. Anyway, I don't know if that's even a possibility, but if we can accept them, I think write it down, let's tell people. I think there are people in our community that would absolutely be willing to donate laptops or tablets or whatever, that they may have. So let's give them a way to show them what to do with that information.
And we did get a donation of 20 Chromebooks, and the 20 Chromebooks that we just got donated will go towards this chunk of 81 students right off the bat. So we're working on getting those out to them, but we need to make sure it's 20 of the kids that have internet access to use the computer. So we're plugging away at it. But I mean, the best thing really is these were brand new Chromebooks that actually Shelley Hornback's neighbor donated, went and bought 20 of them and donated them to the district. So Jen Larson and John Scudder are working on making sure that these get out to our top 20 neediest families that need them. So, I mean, every day it's a little bit more of a plan, and we're working on, we do appreciate our teachers because they are making phone calls. Not only are they making phone calls to make sure kids have technology, but to make sure that we account for every single child. Our goal was to account for 100% of our kids before they left on Friday. So by Friday afternoon, every kid knew who their teacher was and had made contact. So the fact that we're here on Tuesday and we only have 95 kids in the district, which means, and that's completely unaccounted for, we haven't been able to get in contact with them. That's 5 to 6 kids at every school, which is a pretty low number. And with the attendance rate being so high, and Kim, what you're looking at is from yesterday. So if you're saying 96% attendance, and what Jody said is the most accurate as of today, 95 unverified, that means that we only have 95 students who have not participated at some point in time in distance learning, which is a lot less than our waiting list for computers in our 81 students plus some of those. So that's promising in the sense that there is some access out there. It's not ideal and it's not what we want it to be, but I was really relieved to see those numbers.
Yeah, I agree. I think compared with where we were in the spring with the number of families that we had not heard from, I think we're off to a great running start. And I do not want my comments in any way about these last students who need technology to undermine or undercut the appreciation I have for the technology department. I know when we first went to distance learning in the spring, you never thought in a million years that you would distribute 1,800 devices to students, and you have done that, and that has made a huge difference to so many students in this district. So I am very appreciative of the work that you've done. Thank you, Brad.
Brad in our tech department, I can't even begin to tell you how amazing they are. And they'll turn around Windows computers for our kids and have those ready. I mean, our target date is August 24th, so I'm sure they'll be ready by then. But you're right, Kim, they're absolutely amazing. And Brad and I talk all the time because it is the biggest angst point for us, is not having enough technology for our kids. And like, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning the other day, and because I dreamt I got an email that said that the CDW PO was canceled because they didn't get it in time, and it was 1,000 of our computers. I was like, what are you doing up? I said, oh, I had an awful dream. But I mean, that's the biggest hang up. And it's the biggest hang up for our principals and our teachers too. So they are really trying to work with families that don't have that access until we can get that to them.
Yeah, and I just want to say for folks, out there that are watching or, listening to this meeting that, don't really understand what one-to-one technology means. We have not been a one-to-one technology district, meaning we do not have a laptop that is checked out to every student and they're allowed to either take it home or, utilize it in the classroom or on the campus. And so for a district as large as ours to be able to accommodate all but 81 students with either their own personal technology device or one from our district is pretty amazing in a 4-month time period. I think we all dream of the day that we can be a one-to-one district, and utilizing all of the Chromebooks that we're getting, we may be closer than we think at this point. This is one of the, blessings that will come out of COVID, is that we're going to be closer and closer to some of those goals because we're forced to spend this money now. But just so that, people in our community and parents know, these were not even pieces of equipment that we owned 4 months ago or that we even had access to. So all of these had to be, ordered, or even if we did have them, had to be, prepared to be able to be sent home with students. So, kudos to everyone doing it. And as I mentioned earlier in my board report, we have extremely high expectations for ourselves, for our staff, and for our students. And, out of 10 or 11,000 students, we have 81 that can't access it. And we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about it for 10 minutes until we figure out how 81 students get laptops. Because it's that important to us that every single student get one. So anyway, I just want to really make that really clear that we have crossed a million bridges already, and we're just looking to cross one more, by having this conversation. So anyway, thank you, Gina. Was that all of your presentation, or was there more to go?
That was it for technology. Just a quick update on food services. We served about 800 meals in the first 3 days of school. So we had some technical difficulties with our Titan system, so they don't have an exact number yet. They're adding up by hand all the cashier stuff, and it's been, kind of a new system for us. That's about where we're at. So we're going to give it a couple of weeks and then see if there are some schools that we won't open during lunchtime if we're not back at school by then. So if we don't have kids back on campuses, because there are a couple of schools where they served like 8 students. So maybe if they could just go a mile down the road to the next elementary school and get their meals, that might be more fiscally responsible for food services. I think that's all I have.
Gina, do you have an update on ELL?
Oh, I do. So yeah, part of, this is Jen Larson is really reaching out in her team of coordinators to our English language learners and to all of those families, making home visits when necessary, collaborating with our gen ed teachers to make sure that their content online is geared toward and that they have good plans in place for targeting our ELL students. And so they're co-planning together. They're giving feedback specifically about ELL services and making sure that they have access to all the same digital platforms. And then also our Google Translate, and making sure they have the devices that they need too. So.
Thank you. And then Megan, did you want to share a little bit about what you've been seeing on campuses during the distance learning and the fresh start of the Digital Learning Academy?
Yes. So over the past week, I have had the absolute pleasure of being at 10 schools and walking through them and walking in classrooms and seeing our teachers rise to a level of, I would call them experts in this crash course of training, high level training they received last week. Or I can't even remember what week, whatever, the beginning of the weeks. They were so committed to learning, and it was stressful. Like Ms. Hopper's saying, like this learning and this level of expectation that we are trying to rise to and accomplish right now with digital and distance learning is so high. And so I know everybody felt the overwhelm during training, and you could feel it and see it. But when I walked on these campuses on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with the principals, walked into classes and had them show me their teachers and what they're doing, the level of expertise, the level of pride from the principal, the level of expertise in the teacher, to see not only their smiling face and their hearts and their connection, which we are, I mean, we're masters at that, but to watch them use all of the platforms and programs they learned at the level that they were already doing it on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, I was blown away. I saw so many of the Nearpod lessons where they were already embedding them into their morning meetings with their celebrations and their wish wells. I talked to a middle school teacher who said he has never had this level of engagement in a middle school class the first couple days of school, because, everybody's a little nervous, but there's so many different guess you would call them structures within Nearpod, that it can be anonymous contributions to the lessons. So the way he's embedding this to engage his students on day 1 and day 2 just blew me away. They are mastering switching between their Nearpod lesson and during a Google Meets using their using their dock camera. And then they have these big, beautiful TVs that people have donated, or I guess you should call them screens, that they can see all their children, and they have microphones and cameras. I mean, it is like recording studios at its best in these classrooms. And just seeing these teachers flip through these with so much ease absolutely blew me away. Like, I'm always blown away at our teachers, but just watching this was crazy. But I also then asked our instructional coaches, and our principals, what are you seeing from our teachers? And what they're telling me is that they are helping and mentoring each other like never before. I think being on campus was a hard decision to make, but to see them utilize each other when there's glitches in technology, there always is, or if they need some advice on this or to highlight a lesson, that the mentorship and the apprenticeship that they're utilizing each other's for is unbelievable. Also, the way they're showing, I was at Rancho Santa Fe, and this teacher was creating videos for her team to show them how to bump it to the next level, like within Google Meets. And I had to learn, I sat with her and learned it within Google Meets, how to do the breakout rooms like we used to do in Zoom. And she just whips out a quick video, sends it out to everybody on her staff. And just to see those people rise to the occasion is just unbelievable. And then 5th grade teachers I saw at a school were doing experiments with their kids already. Their kids were allowed to chew bubble gum and do this experiment. It was fun for the kids. And just, that's like the first 3 days of school, just unbelievable. And when the teachers, our coaches asked the teachers, like, what do you feel good about? They were just celebrating the grace that they're getting from their parents, the commitments they're getting from their parents, to work through all the glitches and figure that out. And then not only that, but the emails that they're getting from their parents, thanking them, and how they're blown away. Like, I mean, it just built our teachers up the way they should be, because they're going all in on this. And this is being ultimately vulnerable, like some of us with our technology skills, and just hearing our teachers and community. And they sent me some emails, and I actually just requested a few of them to share with you. And I think I got maybe 100 emails that parents have shared with their teachers and their principals. And some of them were just saying, I love this one. It says, thank you for making my daughter's day easier than she expected. She's my worry bug. She came down and told me, Mom, I love my teacher. And she walked her through everything about her Google Classroom. And thank you for making this year fun already. I wanted to let you know that you rocked this week of distance learning. We were impressed with how smoothly things went. Thank you for working so hard for our kids to continue learning. We're so impressed with how smoothly things went this week. And I know our teachers probably didn't feel that smoothness, but for them to just be able to roll with our tech things that came up, which they're always going to come up, with such confidence and expertise. So our families and our children just felt like it was just rolling, was just unbelievable. This one family said, you handled all the technical difficulties and new formats with such grace and patience. The long hours, extra thought, effort, and creativity does not go unnoticed. You made us so excited about starting kindergarten this year. Like, I just picture this couple or this family around their little kindergartner for the first time in school on this on virtual learning experience, and just the ease that our teachers gave our families because of their confidence and their expertise. And these emails go on and on and on. And I don't know if you all receive all of these kind of emails, but if you want me to share them with you, I will, because it just is such a testimony to the commitment of all of our departments, our principals, and our teachers and our instructional assistants. I walked in so many self-contained rooms, and there was instructional assistants all spread out, and they were all on the Google Meets, because what they're doing is modeling for the children on there, right? So there's 5 adults in these self-contained programs, all there holding up cues like mute and woohoo and way to go, but everybody's engaging. So our instructional assistants and our teachers just completely oozing the belief they have in their children by being so open to learning and then practicing and putting into practice everything that they learn. Just blew me away.
Thank you, Megan. It's always nice to hear good news. Unfortunately, I don't think that we receive all of those positive emails. We receive some with very kind words of support, but it's good to hear that. And I know Jody and Amy share a lot of of those sweet emails and the replies and things like that that go back and forth. So we do get to see them. So it's nice to know. And I think, the unknown is the hardest part. Right now that school has started and we see how teachers are acclimating, I think everyone can just sort of breathe a little bit easier. It's that fear of the unknown, and especially with our youngest learners, it's challenging. It's challenging to get them to pay attention and to sit in front of a screen and that kind of thing. So I know the teachers are doing their very best to keep everyone engaged and active in learning and excited to, virtually be with them every day. So thank you for that
one more thing I want to
uplifting
share.
report. I think we all needed to hear that good news. So we appreciate it.
One more thing I'd like to share is that, we brought up our new teachers, and one of our schools, I said, bring me in all your new teachers' classrooms. And they're like, you're going to be blown away by these teachers. The new teachers were coming in, and when, I walked into their room, but just watching them already have connection and just have an ease about them. So their commitment to coming into this new way of doing things, just unbelievable. And I walked in, I think it was maybe 6 or 7 of the new teachers on this campus, and just to see their commitment and already just shining that belief that we have here in Litchfield. And that was super impressive.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'm glad you got to experience that. I know, again, just probably seeing that in action, put your mind at ease too. Like, everyone's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. All the training that we put forth is actually working. So thank you very much for that. Okay. Jody, do we still have one more report under that, or the COVID-19 update?
I have a question about class size, since we're talking about the class visits and how that's going. I think this probably is the time to bring it up. So I'm trying to understand, in the principal reports that we got for all the schools, it gives us the class numbers for each class, and they are very different. Some have a lot of kids and some have hardly any. Some of our classes, I'm just trying to understand how why they don't seem so balanced and how we're able to keep all these classes going. Because it seems like even if you took one of the classes out, possibly, the numbers would still fall in line with what our class sizes should be.
Okay, so when we first started with our classes and setting them up, we went off the commitments that we received from our parents. And so then that's how we balanced and structured, so that we knew how many did we need in DLA, how many did we need in hybrid, and how many did we need in person. Well, so we structured that and set up all the classes. Well, then the last, I would say the week before distance learning happened, we had a lot of parents requesting changes. So that's where some of that impact is. Some of it could be also withdrawals. Some getting nervous, especially with kinder, and changing their mind. So why we haven't made any changes just yet is that we know that time is going to change. We also are seeing that 40 to 50 children are enrolling a day. So even from the reports that you receive, remember these happened a week ago is when the principals turned them in. Like, for example, Scott Libby has changed a lot actually already, just within a short period of time. So you're going to constantly see those changes. So in a typical year, we usually don't make a change to any type of classes until after the 10th day. And in this setting, since it's really not typical even after the 10th day, we want to hold tight until we know for certain, because we know a lot of our parents are going to make a lot of changes when it's time to return to in-person. So we want to make sure that we're appropriately staffed in those locations. We did collapse some positions before, so that if a teacher had left, we just moved a teacher over. We are just going to keep our certified teachers where they are currently. So in that way, when all of our kiddos return, that we're fully prepared, and then we can make some decisions at that time if we don't have class size like we need, or let's just say there's even more parents that want to do the digital learning academy, then we may need to make some adjustments there. But it's hard to know just right now, especially when families are changing their mind, and we're trying to have them kind of hold tight for right now so we can stay steady, so we can keep as balanced as we are, and then be prepared for when the changes occur again.
Well, so take Scott Libby, for instance, because you said they had a change.
Mhm.
We just recently approved a hire of a new teacher for Scott Libby, like in one of our recent meetings, right? I saw recently that they had added a 5th teacher, but if you look at their numbers, like, I'm just not understanding why we hired a 5th teacher for that school. When, I mean, there's a teacher that literally has 10 kids in her class. I guess I don't know why we didn't move a 3rd teacher to the district to distance learning, so that the distance learning classes didn't necessarily have to be so high, because our distance learning numbers are way, way high. And I know that's because we have way more kids than we were expecting. And we had talked about allowing 25% more, but thinking about, they're still having to manage those. All our kids are in distance learning right now. And I'm looking at when my kids are on distance learning and the teacher has to see 32 kids, that's a lot. So I'm just trying to understand why the numbers, like, it still doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it's hard too, because a lot of those parents, and that's where it's you know, I know it's tough probably for board level and even probably for my level, but I know a lot of the parents at certain schools told their principals that they're signing up for Digital Learning Academy, but as soon as we get back to being in person, they want to switch or they want to change their mind. So I think they're just trying to be, we tried to be prepared for the unknown and not make a quick reaction when we know that we don't know exactly how many will come back. So kind of just monitoring those and monitoring them closely. And we also know, like, for example, when you look at those lower numbers, if you're looking at Scott Libby, for example, they have increased since then. But we also know a lot of our kinders, that was the grade level that was hardest hit, because distance learning is very difficult for kinder. And we've had a lot of families who've called and then just said, you know what, I'll wait and I'll register when you open the doors. So we're also trying to prepare for an influx that we don't know, but are anticipating coming. So we don't want to move somebody and drastically change and then get them set up somewhere else, and then it's too hard to pull them back. So that's why we wanted to just stay kind of steady for right now. And especially with all of our appointments being taken up for enrollment. I mean, enrollment's happening. And I think too, the word of mouth, I think sometimes, I think some of the folks were also waiting to see what the distance learning was going to look like when school started. And I think that word has gotten out of what it looks like and the high quality and what our teachers are delivering. So I think that's where we're also seeing a lot of those folks booking those appointments to come back in and register.
Okay, sorry, one more question then, because you said distance learning in that your people are going to move from distance learning. When we first talked about distance learning, it was said that distance learning, if you signed up for distance learning, you were signing up for a year. The teachers have made the commitment to teach it for a year. So how come we're not still expecting that commitment from the families?
Well, remember what we said is that we would like them to commit for a year, but we would consider changes at intervals if there was space available.
So are we prepared then, just to piggyback onto that question about the Digital Learning Academy, those, our highest numbers are in the Digital Learning Academy right now, because again, I think more students chose that, and when they went to commitment, they chose more of that than we had anticipated. So what is going to be the strategy? Are we prepared to take in-person or hybrid teachers now that have a very low class when we do transition back to school, transition them over to Digital Learning Academy? Because, you know, we have classes that are 35 to 40 kids in a class. I realize that digital learning class is different than in person, but, you know, 40 kids is 40 kids, right? So are we prepared to make those kinds of staffing changes, not just between in-person and hybrid, but between whatever that in-person looks like and the Digital Learning Academy, so that we can get those numbers down if the kids don't show up in person like we anticipate?
Right. So that's what we want to do, is we want to wait until everything's settled, so then we know exactly what kind of staffing moves are needed, and that they'll be hopefully more concrete, because we'll be back to a more typical school year and everybody will be in the model or the mode that they were they're most comfortable with at that time.
Okay, I have two questions. The first is, are these newly enrolling students within our boundaries, or are those variances?
I would say the majority are within the boundaries. And I would have to have Wendy comment on where we are with open enrollment. I know she monitors them and trying to balance and looking at the whole entire campus and the whole entire school.
Okay, my second question is, as a board, last year we made a decision to reduce class sizes, and we were given dollar amounts on that impact that were in the millions of dollars. So for example, when I look at my home school, which is the Litchfield Elementary School, and I look at kindergarten, right now the average class size is 15.6 students. If we were to collapse one section, it would still be 19.5 students. So my question is, with class sizes this low, even if they're shifting between one type of learning and the other type of learning, how is this impacting our budget next year? I understand our funding this year will be based on last year and potentially ADM from the current year. However, my concern is that our budget is going to be greatly decreased next year based on our current year enrollment. And then how are we going to support these teachers next year?
So I think those are some things that we'll have to kind of wait to see in the future because it'll be the 100th day, right? When they do their alignments and numbers, we'll look at the 40th day and then we'll look at the 100th day. And I'm hoping that by the 100th day, our enrollment numbers will increase and grow back to support the staff that we have in place right now. But that's why we haven't added to staff. We moved or shuffled where we needed to. And then with them being certified teachers under contract, I mean, they're here with us for the year. So that's where we're gonna just kind of hold tight again to look at what does it look like when we come back to in-person. But anticipate that our enrollment will increase and we are very hopeful. I think a lot of folks are just nervous right now and waiting for a more typical school year. And we still have growth coming. So houses and stuff are still being, still in place. And then we would just look at, again, next year, I mean, we always usually have turnover with retirement, with folks moving, those types of things. So if in the springtime, if we need to absorb or look at what does it look like for the next year, then we would do so.
And I think you mentioned just in one of the reports too, just to clarify, as people are continuing to enroll right now, the Digital Learning Academy is not an option because it is full, at least at this point. So we're putting them into either in-person or hybrid classes. And then again, they will have the same option as every other family that at specific intervals, maybe the quarter or what have you, if there is space available for them to move, they can do that. But right now, the class sizes that we're seeing with the Digital Learning Academy are not going to get any bigger, only smaller as people transition out of them. Okay. Any other comments, questions, either in relation to class sizes and or any of the COVID-19 updates that were presented?
Yeah, I would like some additional detail. I understand that we're anticipating that our enrollment is going to go up and that we're going to have changes in these numbers, but we have no idea if that's actually going to happen. So I would like some actual concrete numbers or projection estimate on what we do know as to what this is going, if we had to say today what this is going to look like from a financial standpoint next year, I'd like a heads up on that as soon as possible. And then we can change that heads up as we evolve and as the numbers change throughout the year. But I don't feel comfortable right now supporting this. Let's wait and see if we get the funding down the road. That gives me great discomfort.
Kim, can you clarify? I'm sorry, I don't understand the comment. You're saying that we can't maintain the staff, the certified staff that we have right now going into next year? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because based on, again, I'm hearkening back to us asking for 1 or 2 number of reduction in the class size and being given multi-million-dollar number for that to happen. And I look at these average class sizes, and across the board they're down, but in certain schools they're down by even half maybe, or close to it. And so I just don't see how that's feasible to maintain, given what we've been told and taught about how the formulas work, how funding works. I understand this year, again, is based on last year, but next year will be based on this year. So I want to start thinking about next year now, so we don't have a surprise down the road. Again, knowing it may evolve and change, but let's go ahead and get a snapshot as of today.
Because our enrollment is down, is what you're saying overall.
Yes, because
the
our
enrollment is down.
Yes.
And so, okay, I'm sorry, that's the piece that I was not understanding.
understand it
Okay, so what you'd like to see is a financial analysis of, with our current numbers as of, let's say, the 10-day mark, rather than the 100-day mark, which is what we would typically use, in the second semester, of what kind of staffing plan would we need to see next year that would be equivalent to the current funding we would expect based on the enrollment that we have now.
Yes, and I don't need a detailed staffing plan. I don't need 100 hours put into this, but I would like to know in high level terms, this is our current year budget based on the ADM from last year and where we are today, what that would look like a year from now, and just what that dollar amount is, because I don't know what that dollar amount would be. And then the trickle down to all of the other, potential departments and things like that.
Okay, I understand. Do you understand what she's looking for?
Yeah, and just so you all know that that's what we do every year. So that's how we start with our staffing. So just so I don't want you to think that we do it like last minute. We determine staffing in January for the next year based on our current enrollment and what our classes are looking like. And then that's when we let principals know ahead of time how many teachers they have to collapse. And we start analyzing that in January. So we're set completely when we kind of go into that springtime, but we can definitely give you updates as we go through. I know Wendy was going to work on different financial updates for you throughout in relations to COVID and just the status of where we are. So we can give you updates as we go through to in relation to staffing as well.
Can I jump in and get just a little clarification for just a second? To Kim's point, yes, since enrollment is down, those are the numbers you want to see and that we're basing it on. If I'm understanding Melissa's point to what you said, Jody, there are some classes right now that do have very low numbers, such as the 10 that she mentioned. We're holding off on making any changes until after the first quarter because we're hoping that more students are going to be coming in and you're going to pad them into that class that has the low numbers. So all the teachers know that they might be on campus with someone that's got 37 kids in their digital academy or the hybrid models, which are lower. That will be adjusted at that point, regardless. Okay.
The other thing that we were also trying to stay kind of steady with too is that we want to be able to also socially distance as much as possible too. So, I mean, we're trying to take all of those different moving factors into place because we want to make sure that the staff also feels comfortable for when in-person returns. We also know that parents are going to change their mind. I couldn't tell you the number of calls we get from parents daily changing their mind. And even though we're all remote, right? They still change their mind.
Changing their mind.
So,
and some teachers may be moved as well once those numbers go down. Okay.
Correct. And that's why we call this the year of flexibility.
Yes, flexibility. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is good, obviously, to plan ahead. I know this is something that the district does, probably every couple of months, is review kind of those staffing needs. I think this year, obviously, that's heightened awareness just due to the fact that we have very unusual circumstances. And, I don't want anyone to take the comments up here that we are not elated by the size of these class sizes. I mean, because we are, in the sense that, Jody, to your point, when we are ready to transition back into whether it's a hybrid model or full in person or whatever is allowable at that time, these numbers are certainly safer and more doable to our reopening plan than they would be otherwise. But the financial implications are real. And we certainly need to be monitoring that from a high level budget perspective to make sure that once we hit that January milestone and again in March when we're ready to invite new teachers back, that we're prepared to see that financial news. So anyway, okay.
I'm sorry, can I add one more thing to that?
Absolutely.
So my other thought in this, and I understand that it is not my role to determine the day-to-day operations. However, the frugal, efficient part of me thinks, you know, if we collapse, I understand that we have these teachers employed, they're under contract, they will be with us throughout the year. Or is there anything we could be doing now and utilizing this time with still giving quality education by, let's say, for example, collapsing a kindergarten section and taking that teacher and giving them a special project that would go toward advancement of something? I don't know what that program would be, but I understand that they're in our employ, but could we be more efficient with the resources that we have by reallocating those and utilizing them in a way that's not our norm?
Can I say something to that, Jody? I think, and to Kim too, I think what Jody might not be so clear about is we don't want to condense kinder yet because kinder enrollment may increase and then we would pull that person back. But that is a consideration. I mean, we've talked about where we could condense, and principals are even aware of where their low classes are and what they could do on their campus to collapse and create some different things too. So, I mean, the conversations are going on, but it's that not knowing what's going to happen when we all come back in person and how many kids are going to then enroll in with 40 or 50 a day. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to speak for Jody, but I know that like maybe jumping the gun a little bit, moving teachers before the 10-day drop.
Yeah, I'm not asking to move teachers before the 10-day drop, but what I'm being told is that we're not making any changes until the first quarter. I've been in this game long enough to know that if we wait till the first quarter, it's probably not going to happen because parents like their teachers, and then we're going to say there's changes with that, and we'll already have a year full of changes. And I'm not saying I'd be happy with that as a parent either. I understand why parents feel that way. You get accustomed to someone, and there's already all this craziness that's happening. So I'm just a little bit leery when I hear that we're going to make this decision later when I'm just not super confident that it's really going to be an option on the table at that point.
I just want to say the last thing, that my major concern is that our classes are not balanced. Like that we have classrooms that have 18, 20 kids, and then we have a class that has 10 in the same grade at the same school, and they're all in person. So that's the issue that I'm having a hard time with, is why we're not balancing those class numbers better.
And Melissa, and I think in some of those, they are getting more balanced because kids are enrolling. So like in a kinder at Scott Libby, they've added more kids. So to where they are more similar. And then they just plug in.
Any other comments, questions, or requests for further information? And as always, I'm assuming we'll still get these same reports each time. So we'll be, can be reviewing this on a monthly basis as well as we move forward with our school reports, school campus reports. Okay, is that completes the COVID-19 update? Okay, I'd like to go back really quickly, and I sincerely apologize for Shelley Hornback for waiting for us. Thank you so much. We're gonna slip right back up before we go into our executive session to item 2A for our recognitions and celebrations with Shelley Hornback. Thank you very much for being patient, and we are ready to hear the awesome things that are going on in our district.
Thank you. Thank you, President Clymer, members of the board, Superintendent Gunning. Welcome to the year of flexibility. I appreciate you being flexible with the agenda tonight and accommodating me toward the end of our agenda. I maintain I have the best job in the district because I get to share so many amazing things that are happening with our stakeholders, our students, our staff, our families. Tonight, it was really tough to narrow it down just to choose 3 things to celebrate because our year launched so successfully. In the midst of a global pandemic, we have teachers working hard, parents committing daily, and students really being resilient and flexible with us. So we're so grateful for that. And of course, our stakeholders who are coming through time and time again to help us achieve educational excellence. Summit Community Church did a huge drive with their members and ended up bringing giant baskets of goodies for our staff members to many of our schools. Summit has been with us since their inception more than 15 years ago. They have proven time and time again to be strong partners and good neighbors. And this is just one more example of that. So we're very grateful to Summit Community Church for their incredible goodie baskets that they brought for our schools. Also, our new teacher induction was a massive success. Special thanks to Dr. Pearson and Phyllis Lucier for making that so special and effective. And we had several community donors who pitched in lots of gift cards and giveaways and prizes to help celebrate our teachers and let them know that we're an A-rated district because of the support of our community. And that includes contributions from 100% of our governing board, per the usual. Every year, our governing board does that for us, and this year was no exception. So thank you to all of you for your contributions to our special prizes and giveaways for our new teachers, helping demonstrate the Litchfield way with our 83 new teachers. And we want to pause for a moment and thank the leaders of our parent organizations. They have launched, they are working hard, and they have a ton of paperwork that they need to submit in order to be officially recognized as a strong partner with our district. And they work hard to make sure that that happens by this first board meeting. Audits and tax reviews and all kinds of just loads and loads and loads of paper. So that meanwhile, they're trying to get their own children ready for school. And of course, their organizations raising money and getting off the ground, building morale, building our school families, supporting our principal and teachers. So they're really working hard in addition to all of the mounds of paperwork that they need to get ready for this board meeting. So they did that, and we are grateful to them. We know that they're going to be a huge part of our academic success and our rigor and a caring environment that we will see this year. So thank you so much to our parent organizations and their leaders for helping launch this year successfully. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you so much, Shelley. We appreciate you managing all of those amazing relationships and sort of really being the workhorse behind allowing our community to really and truly participate in a meaningful way in our district. I know it's a blessing to them as it is to us and all the teachers and students that they touch. So thank you very much for that report. We appreciate it. Now we're going to move on to something that's going to be a little interesting for those of you watching on YouTube. I am calling for an executive session. We are going to discuss our school closures with our district attorney, and we cannot get legal advice in a public meeting. So we need to go into an executive session. So I am going to call for a motion to just recess our regular meeting here and convene into executive session.
I motion to recess into executive session.
I second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, we will pause our live